After this video, you're going to know how to get 8 out of 8 every single time on Language Paper 1 question 3. I'm going to go through techniques you need to know, mistakes you want to avoid, and then what to do to make sure you don't do those to easily get a top mark. So firstly, let's look at what the question actually is. So the question is, how is the text structured to interest you as a reader? Now, it will always be the same question, and it doesn't change no matter what the extract is, and this is a structure question, which we'll go into. And it is 8 marks, so you should spend about 10 minutes on it. If you have extra time, about 13 minutes. So we're going to look at some techniques for this question. Now, like I said, it is a structure question, which means we don't want to talk about language techniques. We want to have no imagery, plosive connotations, anything, just structure techniques. So I'm going to give you 3 different structure techniques that you can use and spot for this question. The first one is looking at shift or zooming in from focus from wide to detail. So what this actually is the writer begins with a broad or general view and then narrows down to a specific detail or image. So for example, the city was alive with movement, traffic humming, crowds bustling, but in the middle of it all, a single red balloon floated quietly past the boy's hand. So you can see that this is this zooming in, this shifting in focus. We're having this broader view of the city being alive and what the city's like, and then we get this specific focus on the balloon. So when you're commenting on how the text is structured to interest you as a reader, we can comment on these shifts in focus because it allows us to get this real insight and understanding into what is going on within the description. The second technique we look at is a cyclical structure. Now what this is the ending mirrors the opening. So an example of this would be the rain tapped gently on the window, and then the closing line would be outside the rain tapped gently once more, unchanged though everything else had. So if you see in the extract that you're given in Language Paper 1, if you look at the beginning and the last line, if it's similar, either it has the same words or it's just very slightly different wording, that is a cyclical structure. And that shows something that is ongoing. So whatever the message is of the text, whatever you're reading this creative writing, think about this, something is ongoing, it's never ending, it's cyclical. And that's what you want to kind of focus on. And what's also really important for this question, so we go into question 3 in the Lighter Pub, is you want to have a really good structure, then also looking at model examples to show you how to exactly do it. Because the best thing you can do for language is understand things to avoid, top tips, have a good structure with sentence starters, which we of course give you on the Lighter Pub, because that is the way that you'll easily to get top marks, because you can't revise things that you can pre-learn analysis for literature. So the best way you can do it is pre-learn techniques, structures, sentence starters, then look at model examples, and you can get that all of course on the Lighter Pub. And the next technique we look at is a shift in perspective or time. So what this is the writer moves between different characters' viewpoint or between present and past to build contrast or to reveal deeper meaning. So what this actually is an example. He stared at the broken window, breathing hard. 10 years ago, he had done the same thing, only then it was laughter, not silence, that followed the crash. So you can see we get this shift in perspective or time. So we get this shift in time in this example, but we might get a shift in perspective. Let's say, for example, we get one character's viewpoint and then we get another character's perspective on something. That is a shift in perspective, which again allows the reader to have a deeper understanding of the characters, their emotions, their past. It gives them better characterization. So think about if you were, reading a book or if you were watching a film, you would feel a lot more connected to a character if you understood their past and why they were where they were. That's the same thing we can analyse with this shift in perspective of time, allows this deeper characterisation, which is a really good thing to comment on because, of course, it makes the reader more interested, or if you're watching a film, you're going to be more interested because you're more involved in the character. Now let's look through some mistakes. Now it's really important to look at mistakes, and these mistakes are actually taken from examiners' reports, and I'm going to show you how we can actually utilise and avoid these mistakes. Now it's normally easier to avoid doing the negative things than it is to do the positive things, so let's look at what we need to avoid. The first mistake is commenting on the beginning, middle and end without explaining why the structure matters. Now, what a lot of students end up doing is they're like, right, structure techniques, let me look at the beginning, middle and end, which is great, but they don't actually tell me why the structure matters. They're just stating it. That's a huge mistake that students do. So this would be a low-level example of doing it. The story starts with a description, then there is action in the middle, and at the end, it goes back to a description. Very descriptive in stating what happens in the beginning, middle and end. So why this is wrong is this simply identifies the structure but doesn't explain the effect or purpose of the changes. It's surface level observation with no analysis. So it's literally just stating it. It's like, okay, well that's great, beginning, middle and end, no way, we guess that, but we want to go into depth. So how to fix it? Focus on why the writer chose the structure in that way. What does this shift in focus reveal or emphasize? So now we'll be thinking about, they've shifted the focus, why? What's the purpose of it? This is a high level example. The extract opens with a peaceful description of the lake, the sun melted into the water surface, but shifts in the middle to rising panic as the character hears something moving in the woods. So you can see I've described it, but I've given a bit of evidence and I've actually explained it more. I haven't just said, oh, in the middle there's some action. I've said, oh, this rising panic. I've described what action is going on. Now this is the bit where I'm explaining what is revealing or emphasizing. This is the analysis bit. This change creates suspense, mirroring the character's increasing fear and pulling the reader into the uncertainty of the moment. So we can see clearly here, what I've done is I've linked it back to, of course, the reader and said how it creates suspense. I've linked it to the atmosphere, I've linked it to the tone and what the impact is on the character as well. And then you can see I've got this full description. I've stated it, I've stated the technique, but I've also linked it to the impact. What has it done? How has it affected the reader? That's the first mistake. We just will avoid commenting on the beginning, middle, and end without saying why. Mistake number 2 is commenting on sentence length or type without linking it to the meaning. So again, you'll see there's this common pattern. I think structured techniques generally are done the worst by students because everyone knows how to analyse language because you're more used to that. But structured techniques, it just throws everyone. But after this, it won't throw you. So this is a low-level example. The writer uses short sentences to create tension. Technically, yes, they've commented on structure, but they've commented on the short sentences, which is the structure technique. They said it creates tension, which is starting to try and talk about effect. We want to go a lot deeper with it. So why this is wrong, it's vague and it doesn't show how the understanding of how or why the short sentence has affected the specific context of the extract. So it doesn't allow us to know, like, what is the short sentence doing? Why is it affected it? Why has it created tension? You want to give me the reason. Always remember, treat the examiner like an idiot and they have no idea what you're talking about, so you have to explain everything. So how to fix it? Explain how the sentence structure mirrors the character's emotions or adds more to the story. So we want to kind of think about, what does this do? How does that mirror what the character is feeling? What does that add to our understanding as we're reading it? This would be a high-level example. The short sentence, "she couldn't breathe," comes after a chaotic flurry of longer sentences describing her panicked sprint through the forest. So you can see that I've explained it with the longer sentences, the shorter sentences, and how that's impacted the character's emotion. Now I'm going to explain how it adds more to the story. This sudden cut in pace reflects her physical exhaustion and panic, forcing the reader to stop just as the character does. So I'm saying how it adds more to the story because it allows us to understand that she is stopping. It forces the reader to stop at the same time, and it adds more to the story because think, if a reader is feeling similar emotions to the character, they're going to feel more involved, they're going to feel the tension, and that's what all good stories or films do. They make you feel the emotion of the character because then you feel more invested. And then the third mistake, and something to completely avoid, is identifying a structural feature without asking why here, why now. Now, this is such a hack for question 3 to make sure that you avoid just overly stating structural techniques and not talking about the effect of them. We want to think, why is it there? Why is it now? So this is an example of a low level. The writer uses a flashback. Not great. Just the structure technique, nothing else. It's like, we could do a little bit more with that. So why this is wrong is this comment shows some understanding of structure but lacks explanation about why it is put on that part of the text and why it wasn't put somewhere else. Why does the writer use the flashback then? Why didn't they use it at the beginning? Why didn't they use it at the end? Why in that specific moment did they use a flashback? What are they trying to do? So how to fix it is to consider why the writer has chosen to include the structural feature at that specific point in the narrative. So why have they put it there? Let's look at an example. Just as the character is about to enter the abandoned house, the writer uses a flashback to his childhood memory of playing there. Then I've described the memory, so I've kind of stated where it is. This not only builds tension, but creates a contrast between past innocence and present fear, deepening the reader's understanding of his hesitation. So you can see that I've not just explained that the flashback is there, I've explained why it's relevant because we want to say that it's creating this contrast between his past and his present. So just think about, why is it specifically put in that moment? And again, you might not know. You might not have an exact reason. Just say, this could be, or the writer may have put it there. You can use what we call tentative language. Tentative language is saying like, maybe, might, this could be portrayed, perhaps. You could say that the writer could have put the flashback there in order to ... Even down to like a short paragraph. Same with the structure technique. Why is it there? Why is it now? Why was it not earlier? And then give me a reason behind it. And then that will really allow depth into your analysis, and it's such an easy hack to do. So guys, these are just a quick overview of everything you need to know for Language Paper 1 question 3 and what to make sure that you avoid doing. And like I said, if you did want the structures, model examples, sentence starters, that's all on the Light Up Hub. Make sure you subscribe to the channel because I'll be posting a lot more videos like this to help you out before the exam.